Hey, what's up, Exit the Matrix family? Bob here. Hey guys, I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for joining me on this morning talk. First off, guys, if you haven't seen it yet, you need to go check out the video I did the other night with guest Jason Thomas. He's somebody I've been doing regular Zooms with. He's a subscriber of Exit the Matrix, and this guy has gone down the rabbit hole, so to speak, down to the deep end over non-duality. He had a heck of an experience with that, and a lot of what he's been talking to me about, it's been teaching me things that I never thought about. So, I kind of always look at the duality stuff through the lens of Hermeticism and, balancing out the energies and duality and stuff. But he's coming at it from a different direction that, really what you want to be doing is just totally separating yourself from the duality altogether. And so anyways, guys, it's a super deep talk, and it's well worth your time. And then he gives references to the books, to the authors that he read that taught him a lot of this stuff. And then, of course, he had his own experiences. But I'll have the links are under that video in the description also, so that you can check out those references yourself. But I'm telling you guys, it's well worth your time. It's well worth watching the video. It hasn't been getting enough traffic, and that's not because of the subscribers on Exit the Matrix. It's because of YouTube. YouTube's been holding this channel back for a long time. And the only way that I was able to grow it before was when I was able to move people over from my Facebook Exit the Matrix page, and now that I don't have that, it cut off that funnel. So anyways, guys, check it out. You'll enjoy it. It's about an hour and a half long video. At the very least, you're gonna learn some things that you've never heard. It's gonna get you to think about things that you may never have thought about, and it's coming from an angle that you may never have thought about. So anyways, guys, today I just wanted to talk about something peculiar. So last week, I think it was Thursday morning on the way to work, maybe it was Friday morning, I was listening to an NDE account, and or no, sorry folks, oh my gosh, wow, the coffee hasn't kicked in yet. It was while I was at work. It was Thursday, I think, at work. Sorry, I was listening to an NDE, a new channel I never heard before, and I didn't know anything about this channel. I have 4 or 5 regular channels on YouTube that I listen to just for NDE accounts, and a lot of times you get crossover. You get the same people appear on these different channels. Well, there's this one neurosurgeon guy, and I'm sorry, I don't have the video pulled up right now, so I don't know his name at the moment, but he's a neuroscientist, neurosurgeon who had his own NDE experience, and it kind of changed his life, and he started delving into NDEs after that, from a scientific perspective, coming from the neuroscientist perspective. And he's been, really working on proving to people that consciousness is not created by the brain, that consciousness is separate from the brain. In fact, it's separate from the body, from the whole human avatar itself. And so look, those of us that have been delving into NDEs for a long time, those of us that have read the Hermetic texts, we already understand this. We know this, right? But this is new to a lot of people. Well, anyways, he's on this channel, this new NDE channel, and it's not really technically an NDE channel. At least I found out that later, but this guy's been having NDE accounts on his channel. Well, this guy got more than he bargained for. And the reason being, I found out later as the video started going for a while, that this guy is a Christian apologist backed by institutions kind of probably similar to that Wesley Huff guy that, remember the big fallout between him and Billy Carson, right? The so-called debate. That guy's a money-backed Christian apologist trying to, go after all these new ways of thinking, these new teachers like Billy Carson, and talking about the Anunnaki and the cuneiform and all that, and they're trying to put a bottle on all this stuff, right, folks? Because it's like blowing up, and it's new, and it's a lot of, like, the churches have been losing people for a long time. Okay, churches have been dying. And, as a whole. Now, it doesn't mean your local church isn't losing everybody, but it could be, or, could still have a lot of holdouts, right? But all in all, churches have been losing their congregations for quite a while, pretty on a regular sliding scale, right? So now they got these guys that are money-backed, and they're trying to revive Christianity, and they're trying to fight these narratives, right? Like the Anunnaki, the cuneiform narratives, the Nag Hammadi, the Gnostic writings. Like, it's like these guys are like New Age crusaders against, these more spiritual teachings, these ancient texts that weren't allowed to be read by Christians back in the days, these that were hidden by the churches, by the, by the Roman Catholic system, right, and such. Well, they're also going after NDEs. But see, they're coming at it from a different perspective. They're trying to kind of take over the NDE, angle, right? They're trying to inject it with their own belief system with it, with their own angle. And this guy was the perfect example of that. I didn't realize until I got a little ways into it. And you guys got to understand, the guy, the guest, the dude he's super smart. You could probably call him a genius. He's very intellectual. He's a neuroscientist, right? A neurosurgeon. Works on brains. The dude's... you got to get to a super high level, of study, and you got to go to college for a long time to get to his level. And anyways, the fact that this guy had this intense NDE, and he's been open about it, and he's been working on proving, the proof of consciousness outside the body. So that's probably why he got invited on this channel with this Christian apologist, because, obviously Christians want to prove that the soul is real, that, that it can leave the body and such. And, Christianity, that's one thing that Christianity has always been standing on for quite a while. And I agree with Christianity on that, right? That the soul is separate from the body. So that's probably why he invited this guy on. But boy, he got more than he could handle. And this is kind of why I did this video, folks, because I notice whenever these Christian, paid actors like this guy, they try to, gain the narrative on things like NDE research and all that. It's funny, because this guy was starting to get really upset with this doctor, because the doctor's telling his story, and the doctor's talking about meeting God, and he was saying God was like this ball of light, this all-encompassing light, this pure love feeling, just, having a conversation with him telepathically. And this is a normal account for NDEs. If you've listened to hundreds and hundreds of them like I have, or read about hundreds and hundreds of them, then you'll find that there's this typical connection there where people do explain God. I know it sounds weird and cliche, right? Like the old, the spiritualist love and light thing, right? Well, that's essentially what people are describing God as. is this just this all-encompassing mind, this all-encompassing light and feeling of love, and it talks to you like it knows you, because it says it knows you. It knows every spirit. It created every spirit, and that there's no judgment with this light, right? With this source of creation. In fact, he started explaining God in this way, and I started noticing right away, this guy started getting antsy. He started looking down. You could tell he's showing those signs of somebody that's, his programming's like putting his shield up, and he's starting to like, fight this thing, and because look, he's expecting this doctor to come on and say, I passed to the other side, I met Jesus, and Jesus, was talking to me, and because this guy was somewhat of an atheist, he was born or brought up as a Christian, but as long as he was in science and all that, he kind of put that aside and was an atheist for the most part. And he alluded to that during the interview, the doctor did. So of course this Christian guy's expecting Jesus to meet him, and then probably explain to him that he was on the wrong path because he wasn't a Christian, and blah, blah, blah. And who knows, waiting. I guess he thought Jesus was going to bring him to the throne of God, where God's going to be sitting there with his, angels all around and blowing trumpets, and human spirits, on their knees worshiping, saying, holy, 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 all around him, right? And he's holding the book of judgment in one hand, and, deciding if he's going to send this guy to hell, I guess, to, go meet his other angel, Satan, right? The administrator, right? So, of course, this starts getting this guy kind of upset, because this guy's talking about God in a different fashion, a non-judgment God, right? A pure love God. Regardless that this guy was an atheist, he's not sitting there, condemning him for it, right? Well, then it gets worse as the interview goes, and I mean worse for this guy, this Christian apologist, interviewer, the podcaster. He's sitting there, and he's like, starts looking down, and he's getting angry, and then the doctor starts talking about reincarnation. Yeah, he talks about how we've reincarnated here multiple times on Earth, and right away you see this guy look up, and he has to interject at this point. He says, well, that doesn't really follow my line of thinking or research, so let's just not argue about that point right now. Let's just keep moving on. And I'm sitting there thinking, the dude's not arguing with you, jackass. He's telling you what he experienced. Take it or leave it. This isn't a Bible freaking Bible debate here, okay, bro? I mean, dude, these people literally think that the Bible was not written by men, but by God. I mean, they actually think this. It's amazing, man. I tell you. Thousands of denominations, thousands of rewrites and translations and things added to and taken away from the Bible, and these people still think it's the Word of God. I mean, I can't. It's unbelievable, man. This guy was a perfect study for this, okay? But this guy was starting to get his hackles raised, because he's talking about reincarnation. God's a non-judgmental God. He's all loving. He had this great experience, and he did meet Jesus, and so this guy's getting real worked up, okay? And then the one that got me was this guy asked him about, because of course this guy's an atheist, right? So he asked him, well, what about hell? Did you have any experience with hell or anything? And the guy was like, no. And then the guy was like, no, in fact, I don't believe hell's even true. He says the few NDE accounts that he's come across in his research of people experiencing hell or a really negative experience when they cross over, it tends to be tied to their dogma and programming that they get on this side of the veil. So it's like they create that thought for him to experience hell, right? But they have the power to leave hell too. They create it and they have the power to leave it. And wow, that took this dude to the next level. He was like, oh, I mean, this guy was like wanting hell, dude. Like, this guy was so upset this guy didn't go to hell because he's an atheist. He should have gone to hell, right? I mean, folks, come on. When I had Exit the Matrix on Facebook, I used to get the Christians really worked up because I would do posts on articles essentially talking about the fact that hell is not even in the Bible, the New Testament, or the Old Testament. You know, they'll cite Tartarus, Gehenna, the bottomless pit as being hell. No, they're not. The bottomless pit is a dimension. It's a dimensional void. It even explains that. Right? That's why it's called the bottomless pit. It's a void. It's a different dimension. It's probably in between dimensions or something. It's supposed to be for the angels, right? That's where the angels go, not humans. And then Gehenna. Gehenna is a trash heap that's forever on fire outside of the city of Jerusalem. It's this like place where all the refuse gets thrown in because there's a fire going there that never ends because it keeps getting people add fuel to the fire. So it's like an ever-burning hellscape. That's Gehenna. And yet Christians are, Bible scholars will point to Gehenna in the Bible as meaning hell. No, here's a freaking, literally a landfill on fire outside of Jerusalem that they were talking about. And then Tartarus, right? Tartarus is talking about the underworld. Like the halls of Amenti, right? That you read about in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and such, the Hermetica and stuff like that. That's what they were talking about. That's a Greek belief, okay, of this underworld where some of the gods reside under the ground. It never said it's hell, okay? It's the underworld. Because they believed there were different layers to this realm, right? Some of the gods resided in the air, some on the mountaintops, some on the flatlands, some on underground. Okay? So, for a long time, you've gotten this, Christianity created this illusion of hell to put their flock in fear, in a fear matrix. You could call it early MK Ultra, where they could control them more and manipulate them, right? If you're bad, you're going to hell. Just like your mom would say, if you're bad, the boogie monster's going to eat you, right? Going to come out of the toilet and grab you, right? And pull you down into the depths. Look, folks, childhood, tactics used by parents blown up, to a degree where a church uses the same damn tactics on its people that are ignorant. Okay? And you got to realize, folks, for over 1,000 years, most peasants weren't even allowed to own a Bible or read a Bible. Weren't able to even read a Bible because they weren't educated. Only the aristocrat, class and the merchant class and the clerical class were allowed to learn reading and writing. Okay? They didn't want the peasants knowing any of that, right? They wanted to keep the sheep dumb so they're easy to fleece, right? You know what that means, right? Fleecing, robbed, stolen from their energy, their labor. It's the same to this day, folks, okay? That's why the church loves to teach that allegory of you being a sheep. Because they're telling you to your face you're stupid, okay? I'm sorry, folks. I hate to be rude, but it's the truth. I don't know what it takes to get anybody to wake up nowadays because nobody wants to wake up to the truth. Everybody wants to live the fairy tale, right? Like with this God on a throne, a God strolling through the garden. Yeah, that's a man-conceived God, folks, not this all-encompassing mind that we would call the source of all creation, right? Not what actual NDEers talk about. No, Christians want to believe in this God walking around in the form of a human. Right? And that all goes back to the deception of the garden. That's why Christians fall for that symbolism. Because they still believe that the human avatar was created in the image of God. Even though the Bible teaches in the image of the gods. Elohim, plural, gods. Not God. Okay? And you got to understand, Yahweh in the Bible was the Sumerian god Enlil, the commander of earth, the god of the air, who later on, over 1,000 years later, or a couple thousand years later, eventually the Canaanites worship him as one of the god of blacksmithing and of fire and like volcanoes and such. A lesser god he became later on in the Canaanite pantheon. The whole burning, the burning bush on the smoke on the top of the mountain, folks. It's a freaking volcano, dude. Remember the Israelites? Moses? Yeah. Same freaking, look, folks. It's time to wake up. It's time to wise up here, okay? A lot of you guys are still worshiping a Canaanite god who was actually originally a Sumerian god. But that's why Christians fall for this stuff, because they don't even read their own Bible. They don't understand it. It tells you in Genesis, the council of the gods, right? It tells you the Elohim, that they created man in their image. Never once said we were created. Now the Spirit, folks, the Spirit is created in the image of the source of all creation. And that is true. When people have NDE accounts, they say they can retain the form of a human, but they're actually like a ball of energy, consciousness. I don't know how you explain it, but then they say that's what God is like. When they meet God, he's like this all-encompassing light, this big ball of light, almost like the sun, you would say, right? I'm telling you. It's so funny though. But look, man, getting back to this whole podcast, and I'll put a link to it, folks, because look, I want you guys to see this BS for what it is, man. Look at how these people manipulate you. But this guy was really worked up. This doctor's talking about reincarnation, telepathy with this God, this ball of all light and energy and love, and no judgment, no hell. And this guy getting worked up about that. It's literally pissing this guy off, because this guy ain't talking about he went to hell and stuff because he's an atheist. And of course, this guy, because of this experience, he became totally endeavored to God. He reawakened his belief and faith. But it wasn't to the biblical God, it was to the actual God, the true source. Not a God in a book written by men, but a God he experienced firsthand. That was one with him, and he was one with it. Okay? Such a beautiful experience, folks. And this guy was so mad because it didn't fit his narrative of how a book told him things are supposed to be. And he kept on interrupting this guy throughout, saying well, I would debate that, okay, but right now just we'll keep talking. I don't want to get into a debate. The guy is the dude's not trying to debate you, asshole. He's freaking telling you his experience. The dude's got lots of experience. He studies NDEs. He's a neurosurgeon. Okay? He works with the brain. He's literally trying to prove to other scientists that, look, they've been wrong this whole time. Consciousness is not from the brain. It is separate. The brain is like a receiver, like an antenna. Okay? And this is what this neuroscientist is trying to talk about. And this asshole is just getting worked up because he ain't talking about hell and all these biblical understandings, okay? I mean, what a clown show, dude. I'm telling you, folks. If you're in religion still, you're being manipulated. Yeah, you were born a Lutheran. Mommy and daddy brought you up in the Lutheran church, and you're not going to let go of your faith. Look, folks, you don't have to let go of your faith in God. Just understand that the concept of God you're being taught through the biblical narrative, through the lens of the Bible, is wrong. Especially the Old Testament. Absolutely. I mean, you're literally worshiping Sumerian gods. That's what the Old Testament is about. I've already told you guys all this. All these different names for God that they all say is all Yahweh. It's not. You can tell they're different characters. El Elyon is Anu. the Most High. And who was the father god of the Sumerians. That's El Elyon in the Bible. You had Yahweh, that's Enlil. The serpent, that was Enki. Merodach, Marduk. Ishtar, Inanna. Look, folks, it's all the same characters. The Old Testament is a rewritten story about the cuneiform stories. Noah, right? Well, Ziusudra, Utnapishtim, Atrahasis. Those are other names for Noah in the cuneiform. Same story, folks. Look, I'm telling you, folks, you've all been tricked. And of course, if you talk to your pastor about the cuneiform, he's going to tell you that those are the writings of demons to trick Christians. I mean, isn't that just a beautiful way to try to scare Christians away from reading the cuneiform, reading the Atrahasis, right? Yeah, just scare them. Tell them that demons wrote it. And they wrote it there thousands of years ago to trick Christians. I actually got into this debate with a family member about that. He refused to look at the cuneiform, and he told me, don't you know, Bob? Come on, you should know this. Demons wrote the cuneiform. Yeah, they wrote hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of cuneiform tablets to trick Christians thousands of years later. Think about that, folks. But that's literally how Christians think. Because they've been told that, right? Everything that's not the Bible is false. And the Bible is complete truth. And you should never question the Bible. It's the ever-living Word of God, right? Never changing. But yet all these Christians, they talk about rapture all the time. And I've done articles on how rapture is literally invented by a traveling preacher, Darby, in the 1800s. It's well-known, documented history. And yet Christians, look at half the churches now teach rapture. Oh yeah, when end times come, I'm going to be flown away because I'm special. And everybody else is going to stay here on earth and be tortured by the Antichrist, right? I mean, they don't even understand Revelation, that it's about transhumanism. It's obvious, folks. These people don't know anything. All they do, just like people that watch CNN and Fox News, they just parrot talking points. That's it. Okay? And then just to add to this real quick, because I got to go. It's a Monday, and Mondays suck ass. But anyways, guys, so I watched another podcast of this guy, because now I'm like, I want to see what bullshit this guy's actually like peddling here, right? So then I found another one of his videos that popped up right after that one I watched. And it was like an interview with this other Christian NDE researcher that only researches negative NDEs. I like to think about it. You're a Christian. Why are you only researching negative NDEs? That's what literally this guy admitted to. He writes books on negative NDEs. So what do you know? The little apologist boy here, that was upset with this other guest that just toasted him. And trust me, that guy toasted him later on in the interview. Because the guy was starting to get kind of annoyed. Because, I mean, he wasn't going to get railroaded by this clown, right? Well, of course, this guy has the guy that writes all the negative NDs about hell and torture and all this stuff, right? Because this guy's got like a hard-on for negative NDEs and hell or something. It's weird. So then I watched this podcast. And these two clowns going back and forth talking about, like how great hell NDEs are and all this. And it was like the whole talk was about hell and how people experience hell, so it proves hell's real. And I'm just like, wow, these guys are something else, man. I tell you, dude, Anyways, you know what? I'll put links to both those videos so you guys can see it for yourself. You need to see how these people operate, folks, because I'm telling you, these people, they're paid actors, and they know that they're losing people in their churches. So they will do whatever they can to fill those church pews, because it's a business, folks. Church is a business. Organized religion's a business. Did you know that the two main organizations that were running the immigrant caravans up into the United States illegally, one was, that special star, those people, the star people, right? If you get what I'm saying. Their organizations, NGOs, and guess what? Catholic Church NGOs. And why would they do that? Could it be because Catholic churches are losing lots of parishioners? And what are they going to do? They're going to backfill them with who? people from Latin American and South American countries who are all predominantly Catholic, right? They don't give a frick about America ruining our system, undercutting our wages, destroying our border. No, they don't care about that. They just want to put people in their churches. So money, it's money, folks. Don't you get it? It's all a big scam. I've already explained to you guys many times. All organized religions were created by the Anunnaki, by the Inuna, to trick humanity into worshiping gods in this realm, created in this realm, so that they're not truly connecting with the true source of all creation. Okay? And they took Yeshua's teachings, he was teaching what I'm talking about, and they put him back into the black cube of Saturn, which is the Abrahamic face. I've done videos on the black cube. You got to understand it, folks. Look, it's all a big scam. Everything in this realm is a lie. It sucks, because the more you look, the more you realize everything's a lie. So, anyways, folks, I hate to leave on a negative on that, but just understand, like, look, keep searching the truth, but be careful what you're following, and research outside of the box, okay? That book is not the ultimate truth. I hate to tell you. I once believed it was too. So I've been there. Trust me. I understand the propaganda and the fear matrix. You know, like, I got to learn this book because I don't want to go to hell. Then later on in my life, I realized there is no hell in the Bible. There is no rapture. All that stuff's fake. But it's easy to swallow for the sheep, because they don't research anything. They just do what they're told. They're NPCs operating on programming and propaganda. So anyways, folks, I think it's eye-opening. When you watch that interview, you're going to see a yin and yang there big time. And anyways, folks, hey, if you're interested in the one-on-one Zooms, hit me up. And hey, I just want you guys to know, man, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you later.